Oh, there she is. Now I can see you properly.
Sorry about that.
Well done, Isha. You've made it. You've
I
made it in
managed to get
time.
here. Thank you. Thanks for having me
You,
on. I appreciate it. Thank you. How are
no,
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I've just been in Southampton for the test match in a bio bubble.
Yeah.
So I can tell you all about that. But it was just great to have some test cricket. I don't know if you guys managed to tune in, but yeah, what a 5 days. You know, just having the guys out there hearing bat to ball. It was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, Isha, I didn't miss a ball, by the way. I was so cricket starved. I was so cricket starved that I was like, no, I'm just gonna watch everything. But yeah, I mean, it's just great to have cricket back because there was this lull period that we all went through, and of course, with everything that's happening around us, we're living in surreal times, so to speak. So, it's just great to have you guys back, listen to you once again. But today I just thought that apart from the fact that we'll be talking about cricket and what's happening and what's happened on field, I feel it's really important for people to hear your story because, and I know that you've done plenty of them, but actually my fans haven't. And as I'm speaking, by the way, Hassan Ali has tuned into this live chat. I just read his comment. He's saying it's great to have cricket back. So
Yes.
um, there you go,
Thank
Hassan.
you, Hassan
We
Ali.
yeah, we need to get you back, by the way, Hassan. You need to be back on the field. You need to get your back fixed very soon. So,
I
um,
look forward to watching him bowl again.
I know, exactly, exactly. We all do. I mean, he was the star bowler of the Champions Trophy. But yeah, how's it been? I mean, before I actually get into that, I mean, you're living in that biosecure bubble. I see a lot of socially distant tables. Nobody's now sitting next to each other. There are people are rather cautious when even they're, with the players on field, we're trying to high five each other. I did see some form of hesitation over there. So, and no interviews, no up close and front interviews. I could see Mikey was like, Athers was like on the other side trying to interview somebody from a distance.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something we've all had to adapt to. So it's a good thing we like each other, being in such a condensed space for such a long period of time. But yeah, every morning, you wake up, you go down to just outside reception. You have to walk through the temperature gate just to check you haven't got a temperature, because that is one of the signs of having COVID. Then you get a new kind of wristband for the day, and then you kind
Hmm.
of start all over again. So yeah, you've got to stay 2 meters away from each other. If not, you've got to wear a mask. You've got to make sure you sanitize your hands at every given opportunity. So it was kind of strange because obviously when you're like commentating or for radio as well, we had our own headsets. So we would go in with our own headset on, and then it's all about the transition. So we got very good at the transition. So like wipe down the table, stick the connector in, and then you're away. But yeah, you just kind of get used to it, like everything else, I guess. You just adapt.
Mm. And I mean, I mentioned it to you, I think on the, TMS gig that I did, that it was really strange to see no crowds. But of course, that was a PSL tournament. So I don't know, how does that feel? I mean, just not having anyone around you.
Yeah, so it kind of felt like an early season, like county game, or
Yeah.
I've actually played in matches as a female where we've hardly had anyone at the ground, so that's kind of what it felt like. But yeah, early season for a test match in England, you generally have a pretty big crowd, so I think it was a bit strange for everyone. And at times, I went out onto the balcony and I was just watching play, and it was just so surreal, just not hearing anything whatsoever. But in our ears, we had kind of the hum of Lords in the background, which is like a very familiar sound to a lot of people. Not like,
Yeah.
people shouting and roaring like you get in Pakistan, but it was just nice to have something in the background. So I think the people watching appreciated that and listening. Um,
Mm.
And also, like when you're doing radio as well, like you don't feel like you need to talk all the time. Like
Yeah.
you can just let it breathe a little bit, and hear the sound of the fake crowd.
Yeah, I saw that with the EPL as well. I was following a bit of that, and I saw that they had some background noise playing to make it as real for the viewer as possible, which is good. I mean, we have to just move on with the times and adapt and understand that this is how it is for now. We don't know how the situation is going to change later on. But Isha, what a great test match! I mean, come on, this is the first time after a while that we're having cricket back, and then you see West Indies come up with such a brilliant performance. I mean, they were magnificent.
Yeah, and everyone wants a strong West Indies side on the world stage. When you think back to the 80s and early 90s, where they went, 16, 17 years without losing a test series. I mean, those guys are legends, like the likes of Sir Viv Richards. I mean, we showed some old footage back on the BBC of, all those famous test matches, Gordon Greenwich scoring a double century at Lord's to complete, a clean sweep in a test series against England. Viv Richards striding to the crease, and he's got all that charisma and swagger, and that fast bowling quartet that just, everyone was just so scared of. It was just, it's just amazing to relive all that. And hopefully we'll be able to do the same for Pakistan before they come over, just to relive some of those old test matches. But yeah, we absolutely loved being able to work on the cricket, and what a fabulous contest as well. And I think it kind of just opened it up a bit more. The fact that the West Indies came over, a couple of weeks earlier, they had time to acclimatise. The fact that both teams, were, I guess, a little bit rusty, although the West Indies didn't look rusty at all. But it just opened up the contest a bit more, and it was just fascinating to see all of these different things unfold, and it ebbed and flowed. It wasn't like one-sided, which makes it just so interesting to watch. So I wanted to ask you actually, like, when is your first? What work are you doing first? Are you going to work on the Pakistan series?
I am working from home, whatever. It's mostly online, and because media or nobody is really allowed. That's what we heard from our side. That because of the COVID and everything that's happening, travel is a massive issue. If you travel on commercial flights from here, how do you get there, in what conditions? Then you have to be in quarantine. So the issue is really, I would have been definitely there. I mean, I was planning on coming for the summer, which I always do in any case. And then Pakistan has been playing for the last 4 years. So my entire summer has been with Pakistan cricket, which has been mainly in England. But unfortunately, this time that's not the case because of the way, the situation has been. But I will be covering it from home. I will be doing everything which I have to with regards to the analysis or whatever, mainly from home. And I have to say that I've kind of gotten used to this home life, so to speak. You're just you don't have an option. Like, things are not great here. I know things have eased up in the UK, but things here are still not great. So you have to deal with that situation.
Yeah, I know you've been doing a lot of cooking at home as well.
Well,
So
there's not, that's one way to kill time. And we're foodies, we're Punjabis, we're Kashmiris, so the food bit has become a massive part of our lives and has always been a part of our life. But
what's been the best thing you cooked? Sorry, are you going to move on? I want to know what the best thing you've cooked is.
I think you'll have to ask all the people who ate my food, which is the best. But I think I made some really good pizza, Isha, from
Oh,
scratch. I made the dough and then with all the toppings. So I really enjoyed my cooking side. And to be honest, I've never had the time to be doing all these things, because when you know more than anybody else, when you're always on the move, then you don't have time for homely stuff. You're just packing your bags and you're living out of a suitcase, and that's just how it is. But yeah, moving on. I gave your introduction before you even came in about how you were like the first woman of Asian heritage to actually break into the England team. And I know there's been so much going on around lately about, cultures, and a lot has been spoken about racism as well. I want to understand, when
Mm.
you were trying to get in the team, was it challenging for you back then?
It wasn't actually. I was very lucky. I grew up in a predominantly, I guess, a white British environment. I went down to the local cricket club. I basically copied my brother in everything he did, and mum and dad saw that I loved playing cricket because I used to try and chase after the ball in the back garden, and it was long and it was thin and it was perfect for playing cricket. And classic scenario, my brother would get me out quickly, so then I would be for the rest of the evening running uphill into the wind bowling at him. And mum persuaded dad that I should go down to the local club. There weren't any women's teams, so I started with a boys underage team. So I would have been 8 at the time, and I was not only the only girl, but I was the only girl of British Indian heritage in a team full of British white boys and British Pakistanis. So there were a lot of guys there from a Pakistani background. And I
Hmm.
guess, traditionally that may have been frowned upon by an Indian family. But, I never ever had an issue because my parents never saw it as an issue and no one else did. So it was absolutely, I loved that time at the local club. And it was probably more, I felt the odd one out as a girl more than my heritage.
Yeah.
And so, I actually used to love it. I loved the fact that the boys, I remember playing against a number of boys teams, and you could always sense the fear in them, that they were just
Yeah.
worried about getting out to a girl. So I
Yeah.
used to just play on that basically. But I loved being part of that team. And then I kind of got fast tracked into a women's team pretty early, and then the England set up, and the whole way through I never experienced any racism. I think it's such an interesting time at the moment, because it has allowed for us all to just reflect on the past. And it's been a cause for a lot of introspection. And I guess when I was growing up, society tells you, I think it's more of a societal issue, in that you just want to fit in, right? So
Hmm.
you kind of, that's who you become in the end. And at times, any racist comments I might have ignored. It's exactly like sexism. At times people can be sexist, and you think back to those times and you go, well, yeah, actually you can't say that. But
Do you
you
remember
almost,
anything in particular, any comment in particular that stuck with you?
yeah. I mean, there's been the odd comment. I was looking at her legs, so I didn't actually hear what she was saying. But and then just things that you get on Twitter, like get back in the kitchen and all that sort of stuff, which we're kind of used to dealing with, right? But it has made me kind of think about, certainly back in the day, we are expected to kind of just fall into line within a society. And
Mm.
should that be how it is? Shouldn't it be the case that you are just celebrated for who you are, no matter where you come from? And I'm
Yep.
really proud of growing up in Britain, but I'm also really proud of my Bengali roots as well. And I love learning more about that culture, and eating the food. And do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but it's a difficult one, because at times, I have had sometimes people and Indians in this country say that I've sold out because I've gone to play for England. So you can't necessarily win. It's a it's a no-win situation. You just, at the end of the day, I just wish that everyone was just treated exactly how everyone else was, and people just saw me for who I am rather than what I look like, and my gender, and my you know, the color of my skin. But unfortunately, that's not the way of the world, Zainab. You know, it's, you know,
Yeah.
people see these things. That's the first thing they see. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, because you're talking about culture, I think it's important to discuss this. I mean, we've seen with teams as well that now you talk about representation within the England team. For example, you know, you've got people from different backgrounds, different cultures. So, you know, take for example, you've got Moeen Ali and Adil Rashid who are part of the team, and whenever there's a celebration you know, after the presentation ceremony, after a win, you see that whenever alcohol is used, they kind of move away. And there seems to be a mutual respect between the players with regards to each other's cultures. I mean, how important do you think that is when you're playing, or even when you're not playing, even when you're working in a very diverse environment?
Mm, mm. I just think it's basic humanity to want to learn more about a person and, you know, where they come from, because that gives you a better understanding of their perspective. I think, you know, Owen Morgan has very much led this side, and there's a real culture within this group that, you know, they genuinely want to know about each other's backgrounds and respect each other's backgrounds and traditions as well, because the common goal is to ultimately be the best team they can be, and to do that, that's, you know, that's something that they have to do is be very much aware of everyone's feelings and emotions in different situations, and there's no doubt that that contributed to their success as well. I mean, we had a similar sort of situation in 2009, and it, you know, we kind of just stumbled across this group. It was myself, Ebony, Rainford, Brent, and it's not just about within the group. It's and this is where I'm so conflicted all the time, because what it stands for is so much more. You know, young kids, boys, girls from different backgrounds will look at that team and they'll see diversity and they'll see representation more than anything. You know, that they feel that they're being represented, and they feel that there is a place for them within that team. So that can only inspire them to go on and want to do the same.
Hmm.
And I just think in any environment, it's just so important to have that representation, not just diversity of cultures, but diversity of personalities. You know, you have
Yeah.
within a commentary team, you have the funny guy, you have the guy who's always really opinionated. It's so subjective. The analytical guy, the or girl, the presenter, the one who's really inquisitive and wants to ask questions a lot, and then you kind of like mold it all together and you have this team. It kind of becomes a bit of a family. That's why I love, you know, our team at Fox, and you know, it's been a great week with BBC this week. We've got a really nice kind of blend of personalities.
Which one are you?
I'm a chameleon. I just kind of fit in everywhere.
Fit in. Yeah,
I
I
can
can
be
see
proper
that trait in
geeky.
you.
I can be proper geeky when I want to be. I can be a proper cricket geek. I love analyzing the game tactically. I mean, I've always done that. But then I'm super inquisitive. Like, I love getting the best out of my guests and learning more about them. But then, you know, I love having a bit of fun as well. You know, it can't be serious all the time. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, but I've seen you. I've seen Isha when she's in work mode. She's very focused and like in that zone of hers, which I completely understand because once you're working and you're in that zone, then it's very difficult to be.
I'm not scary when I'm in that zone, am I?
No, you're not scary at all. No, no, no. I think you've become quite the pro now. I'm not going to lie. I think you've mastered the art of staying calm. And because we're talking about mastering the art of staying calm, I mean, one of the things that I wanted to discuss with you, of course, you've done commentary now pretty much everywhere for different platforms, for different broadcasters. And because we're talking about staying calm, I mean, that's one of the things which is so important in front of that camera, Isha. I mean, you would know more than anybody else, because you've been doing it for a while now. And I can say for myself as well that there are lots of times, you have to talk about the art of improvisation. There are lots of times when technical glitches happen, lots of times when things don't go our way. I mean, we've seen that the stings have to roll and they don't roll out. Anything can happen, right? It's technology and it can fail us. I mean, how important is it for a presenter or a commentator to stay calm in such a situation?
Yeah, it's a great feeling actually. It gives you a real buzz because you don't know what to expect day on day. And so that is the biggest thing actually, is to just try and stay calm. And you got all this stuff going on in your ear as well, probably people shouting in the background in the gallery at each other sometimes, and you've just got to be there smiling smiling away,
Pretending like nothing happened.
yeah, like nothing's going on. And I love that situation. It gives me a great sense of satisfaction and achievement when you get to an end of a day and you manage to cope with all of that. And yourself, Mayanthi, I work with a lot of amazing female presenters in Australia, here in the UK, but not just female presenters. I mean, just any presenter. I love watching presenters at work, and there are so many good cricket presenters out there. I just find them fascinating to watch. I mean, Harsha Bogle. I love, just everyone, to be honest. I know everyone's subjective. Everyone watching has a subjective opinion on people, but I just like taking things from lots of different people and how they handle things. I mean, Bish just turned up a few days ago. He is brilliant. Ian Ward, super slick. And yeah, I mean, is it the same for you? You get a real sense of satisfaction that you've been able to handle it all at the end of the day?
Well, Isha, I'll be honest, when I started, I had no idea what I'm doing.
Well,
I was completely lost. I think I couldn't understand at that point, I'll be honest, I couldn't understand the multitasking element of this job, that you're listening to the director and you're also trying to listen to the guest, and you at the same time you have to act as if nothing is happening. So
yeah.
It wasn't easy, but like I think you just learn with experience. You learn with experience, and now and at this point, after working for a while, I've got comfortable with it to a point where if something happens, I know that I can take control of the situation and just talk about something else. So I know how to cover up if I've made a blunder. In fact, speaking of blunders, I wanted to know, is there a time that you remember where you made one or covered it up?
I've made many blunders in my time.
We've never known, so that means you did a great job of covering it up, obviously.
I think I just go back to my very first time on television, and it was 2011. This is presenting specifically. I'd been doing like punditry prior to that, but presenting the IPL in England. And it was a live show, and they got me involved because they needed a female presenter from an Indian background and someone who kind of knew about cricket. So I just embraced it, and I didn't know which camera to look at. I think when I threw to the end of the show, I was looking at the wrong camera. So for like a whole 30 seconds, everyone was just looking at the side of my face. Yeah, just super wooden, just like not knowing where to look. But the thing that did get me through was my cricket knowledge, so I could ask the questions or whatever, and that's obviously developed. I mean, I can't think of a specific one off the cuff, but like just things that you say on commentary sometimes, and you go, oh, that didn't come out how I wanted it to, or just kind of, yeah, I can't think of anything specifically. It's a good question though. I'm gonna have to have an answer next time you ask me. What about you?
Oh, I've had many. I've had many. But like I said, I've learned the art of improvisation. If I make a mistake, sometimes I just own up to it on air and I'm just like,
Yeah,
oh, pardon me, this is what I meant. Or
yeah,
I think once you get comfortable in front of the camera and you become really friendly, then even if you do make a mistake, you just know how to make it look very easy and seamless.
yeah.
And I remember like there have been times when I've just kind of fumbled, or there have been times when I've said something wrong. Like I think I called Imran Tahir. I had to say the number one T20 bowler, and I called him an all-rounder. And as soon as I said it, I was like, "Oh, why did I say that?" I know that. So then when I came back from the break, I was like, "Oh, pardon me." Because I had my director Hemant in my ear, and he just burst out laughing. Isha, he was like taking the piss because I was laughing as well. He was like, "Oh, you made him into a great all-rounder," like. So it was just like there are sometimes when you just make genuine errors, and it's not because you don't know, it's just because you're human and you can make error, right? So it does happen like that, but of course, like I said, experience does teach you a lot.
Someone's just actually messaged on here about my deodorant blunder. So I was working for Sky last year, and they came in vision because they were going to the third man chair, and I was in the background, and literally all it had was me just getting my firstly you could see my backside, and then I was reaching down to get my deodorant, and then I went to spray my deodorant, and I realized I was on camera at the time, and I literally was like swift exit trying to get off camera. So that was a caught in the act moment.
Well, at least you were smelling good.
Yeah, yeah, important to smell good.
Okay, coming back to women's cricket. Of course, you've been a main integral part of the England cricket team when you were there. You witnessed some of the greatest moments in England cricket history. Whether it's a World Cup or Ashes or so many memorable wins. But how do you see the women's game now? I mean, do you think it's more? Do you think it's more accessible within England? Because I can speak for Pakistan and say that there's a lot of work that's required for women to come forth. I mean, we're battling with a lot of other issues when it comes to women's cricket. I don't know how it works within England, but here, at least in Pakistan or in Asia, there is, of course, you're challenging mentalities of people, families, how they function and how
Yeah,
they perceive
yeah,
a woman playing a sport. So, a lot you've got all kinds of opinions on it here. Some people are like, oh, why is she playing cricket? Why is she playing any kind of sports? That's not her job. Or, people are, what is she going to be wearing? People are going to be looking at like I'm just saying there's so many different
yeah,
mentalities and mindsets that you're dealing with, that
yeah.
in itself is an issue. And of course, now I feel like, with Sana Mir and a few other big names that we've got in Pakistan, things are changing. But is that the case in England as well?
I mean, the perspective over here is generally a good one. A lot of mothers and fathers take their kids to the local cricket club. From an Asian background, I think there's probably still a few traditionalists. That's why I was very lucky with my parents, who were very supportive of me. And they used to drive me around in the week and at the weekend. And I was very lucky with that. But, I had distant relatives who were questioning why I was playing cricket for England. And, was it going to take away from me going to university, and I shouldn't be doing it, and mum and dad very much protected me from those opinions, so I was again very lucky. But I know that not every girl has the same. But I do think that it is changing now. I think now that especially that the women can make it a viable career path, it's professional, so they can start earning money as soon as they get into the England team, and even below now at domestic level, that there's contracts in place from October, extended contracts, and so that becomes an option. I think the perspective on women's sport in general has changed here since 2012, and we had such an amazing Olympics, and Jess Ennis-Hill was our kind of poster girl. And I think there's just a bit more respect for women in sport these days, and team sports especially. So the women's team gets a lot of support. The ECB is investing heavily in women's cricket because they recognise that it can attract new audiences as well. I mean, you just look at the 2017 final at Lord's and you look at the crowd, and it was so many different types of people that you would get coming to the cricket, and everyone, it was incredible. Like, I've never seen anything like that at Lord's, where everyone was just transfixed to the action. There was no one at the bar. In fact, I think there's a stat saying that that game, they sold more coffee on that day than any other day of cricket at Lord's. Because of just, you know, there were more families and, you know, just not people going to the cricket to drink and socialize and kind of hang out the back. But yeah, so I think there's that understanding that it can attract a different crowd. The MCG final was just ridiculous setup. Like, Katy Perry opening and closing the show, 90,000 people. It was so emotional that day, because we were just like, it feels like it's taken a long time to get to this point, but how amazing is this? And I think Pakistan, you know, Pakistan are playing more of the big teams around the world now, so they're actually getting those games in to learn, and they came to the T20 World Cup. They beat the West Indies, which was a huge achievement, and it feels like they're getting a bit more support. I mean, you'll be able to tell me more, but similar in India, you know, there's a lot more support from the media. They're being put up on advertising boards just like the men, side by side with the men, and I think that can only be a good thing for the women's game.